Hi, welcome to the WildCare volunteer orientation for the Wildlife Hospital. My name is Allison Hermans. I am the Director of Communication at WildCare, and so I will be one of your co-hosts. And
hi, I'm Melanie Piazza. I'm Director of Animal Care at WildCare. I run basically the hospital program, so this
you'll be seeing a lot of her.
You'll be seeing a lot of me, and that's what this orientation is primarily for.
Absolutely. Shall we hop into our presentation? Perfect. Here we are. Okay, so this is the information interview about the volunteer opportunity in the Wildlife Hospital. We are going to talk about a few other volunteer opportunities briefly at WildCare. So as you're watching this, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's not really what I want to do, there are other volunteer opportunities also available at WildCare. But the focus of this one is going to be the Wildlife Hospital. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Oh, that's odd. Okay, we're going to go back here, get calm for a moment. To start, we'll just do a quick rundown of the history of WildCare. WildCare has been in the community for a very, very long time. In fact, the location where we are in downtown San Rafael started in 1954 as the Marin Junior Museum, which was a natural history museum. And it was built in what was the former community hall for the St. Paul's Episcopal Church that had been moved to our current spot on Albert Park Lane. And the Marin Junior Museum and the Louise A. Boyd Natural Science Museum were both museums that really focused on, of course, natural history, talked about animals, talked about wildlife, but there weren't any wildlife hospitals at the time. And what was interesting was, as people expanded into Marin County and the Bay Area started expanding, more and more people were finding injured and orphaned animals. And those animals, there was nowhere to take them. So they would bring them to the people at the Natural Science Museum, the Natural History Museum, and they would be, what is it? Well, it's a baby squirrel, but there wasn't anything that people could do about it. So it became pretty obvious that there was a need for an actual wildlife hospital in Marin County. And that was when the Marin Wildlife Center was founded in 1974. We became the California Center for Wildlife a fair amount of time after that in 1990, because we were expanding the range of the work that we did. And interestingly, the very first seals and sea lions that were cared for by the people that are now at the Marine Mammal Center were cared for in the pool in WildCare's courtyard. International Bird Rescue also started at the WildCare courtyard. So really, our location in San Rafael is the nexus of so many wonderful wildlife organizations. And of course, we still work with those amazing groups. And it's fun that everyone started at our current location, again, in San Rafael. So in 1994, the California Center for Wildlife and the Terwilliger Nature Education Center merged and became WildCare under our current name. I don't know if you are familiar with the Terwilliger name, but it is a very, very, very well-known name in Marin County and actually across the Bay Area. The amazing Elizabeth Cooper Terwilliger, known as Mrs. T, was an absolutely phenomenal educator. And she, in so many ways, completely revolutionized the way that people approached nature education and really brought to life wildlife, nature, and the whole idea of environmental responsibility for multiple generations of young people in Marin County and around the Bay Area. Mrs. T always used to say, teach children to love nature. People take care of what they love. And it's so true, and WildCare sticks to that tenet to this day. One of our main goals through our education programs, our advocacy work, and even the Wildlife Hospital, is to teach people of all ages to love and appreciate nature, because once you appreciate nature and wildlife, you're going to do what you need to do to take care of it. So Mrs. T, just a little bit of history about her, moved to Marin in 1946. Interestingly, she got to be friends with so many people, and it was her friends that encouraged her to start the Terwilliger Nature Education Center, which really became a powerhouse for revolutionizing nature education in the Bay Area. And she was really one of the first people that realized that children were going to be much more excited about exploring nature if they were able to get out into nature. So she did a lot to take kids on field trips and using those multisensory teaching techniques that she's so well known for to this day, and that WildCare continues to use in our education programs.
Although we do not let children taste things out in the woods.
We don't.
Right now.
That is true. That was something that happened in the 50s and does not happen anymore. Exactly. So, so some fun information about Elizabeth Terwilliger, but we're going to talk more about WildCare as a full organization. And what is really wonderful about WildCare is that we are, as an organization, a full cycle of programs that all work together with this ultimate goal of helping people navigate the boundary where humans and wildlife come into contact with each other. Our goal, our tagline is live well with wildlife, and all of our programs, the Wildlife Hospital, our amazing nature education programs, the advocacy work that we do, the online Living with Wildlife, the Living with Wildlife hotline that answers over 15,000 calls a year, our Hungry Owl Project, all of the programs of WildCare really do work together in order to help people navigate that boundary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to say a little bit on the Hungry Owl Project as well. That is a project that we're incredibly proud of, and that we work, it's a fee-based service, so it's a way that we can earn funds for the hospital, and you can pay our technician to come out and do a site inspection to figure out if it's a good place for owls, where the best place is to put the box. And we sell and build, paint, install the boxes, and then we also maintain them and clean them every year, because that's incredibly important. And this program, again, as Allison said, everything complements each other. And so the purpose of this is to encourage people to use natural rodent control instead of using
Natural predators, yeah.
Yeah, instead of using poisons. And so if you have these owl boxes, these owls can eat easily 3,000 mice and rats
and gophers
during a breeding season. So we want to encourage people to do that rather than putting out poisons, which will not only poison the rodents, but then also poison the predators like owls and bobcats and raccoons, who are your free natural predator control. So it's a great program that kind of combines all of the work that we do into one.
Definitely. And I will also note that the Hungry Owl Project frequently needs volunteers. So
yes,
keep an eye out for volunteer
opportunities. If you're a builder, you want to build boxes,
yep,
paint boxes, you're good climbing a ladder, want to come out and help us haul these boxes up on the poles, we'd love to have you. And information on that is on our website, of course.
Yes, discoverwildcare.org. But of course, you are here to learn more about volunteering in the Wildlife Hospital. So who do we treat in the Wildlife Hospital, Melanie?
Oh, so many. Around 3,500 animals a year come through our doors. We're a very small facility, but we do a lot with the space that we have. So mammals, obviously. So we have our carnivores and omnivores, usually the foxes, skunks, coyotes, raccoons, bobcats. Herbivores, and then also North America's only marsupial, the opossum.
Oh, they're so wonderful. If you don't yet appreciate opossums, if you don't yet appreciate various wild animals, once you spend some time working with them in the Wildlife Hospital, I think you'll probably change your mind. Who else do we treat? We have our birds.
So birds make up more than half of our patients, and so we have everything from raptors to waterfowl, and then our songbirds, which are a massive part of what we do. And we'll explain in more detail later, but we have an entire section of our hospital dedicated to specifically the songbirds because they require such specific care.
Yeah, we get between 1,200 and 1,500 baby songbirds every single year into the Wildlife Hospital, and every single one of them needs to eat between 30 and 40, every 30 and 40, between every 30 and every 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Melanie, do you want to tell them who the animals are in this picture?
Yes. So this little polka dotted baby here is a baby Western gull, which is amazing.
Such a cool
adorable. Yep. And you would not imagine that's what the baby gull looks like. And an acorn woodpecker on the side here. And then this little baby is our Swainson's hawk baby.
I remember taking that photo. Excellent. Of course, we also treat reptiles in the Wildlife Hospital.
Yes. So snakes, lizards, turtles, and when I first started at WildCare way back 19, 20 years ago, we barely got any snakes, and now we get probably 20 to 30 a year. I know there are a lot of snake phobias out there. If that is you, you do not have to work hands-on with the snakes. We totally understand that. But they're amazing animals. And typically, as you see in this picture, the gopher snake tangled in garden netting is the most common injury that we get.
We're getting so many. I'd forgotten that we weren't getting snakes very often when both of us started about 20 years ago. We love WildCare, but that is it. And it's so heartbreaking to have the snakes come in wrapped up in that garden netting. That, of course, is one of the advocacy messages that WildCare frequently sends out, is that don't use garden netting, or if you do have to use it, make sure it's rolled up and sealed so that the animals are able to move around underneath.
And non-natives. So WildCare, we do treat non-natives at WildCare, so pigeons, starlings, sparrows. And the reason we bring this up is because some other centers do not, and we do. We just want everybody to know that we treat all patients that come to us, whether it's a mouse or a pigeon or an eagle. They're all going to get the same level of care. And the reason for this with our pigeons and these guys is they were introduced by humans a couple hundred years ago, and they're here to stay. And we feel that the message of caring for every individual animal that you find is more important to get to the masses, because one, most people can't properly identify the animals that they have. So we would hate for somebody to find a little baby bird, naked, nudie thing, and say, oh, it's probably a starling. We don't need it. We're going to let it die. And it ends up being the last dodo in the world. But really, it's about education and getting people and kids especially to care about every wildlife. And this picture and story here kind of illustrates that. This is a pigeon that was shot with an arrow, an air dart that's going through his neck. So you can see in the photo above and then the x-ray, and miraculously somehow it didn't hit any super important parts. I'm sure he considers his neck important, but nothing
vital in that moment, right?
And he was able to be saved and released. And the school kids that helped rescue, that found this pigeon, were involved in the rescue. We brought the pigeon back to the school to do the release, and they had such a great time with all the children there. And to us, sending that message to all of these kids that every wild animal is important and worth their time saving, is the most important thing. So
I love that WildCare doesn't tell anyone that they rescued the wrong animal, and how incredibly valuable it is that we're here to take all of those animals, and we have people drive from all over to bring us.
Yes, and the one thing we will say too, because we do understand some concerns about starlings and sparrows as possibly out competing our local native songbirds for cavity nesting locations, we are incredibly responsible about returning those birds back to where they came from. And they are almost all from downtown San Rafael. They come in from the CVS sign where their nests fell down in the shopping center. So we're releasing those guys back in a downtown area where there are trees, but we're not taking them up to prime oak habitat on Mount Tam, where they could possibly take over those prime nesting spots for our native titmice and chickadees and stuff. So
yeah, always something to consider. And same thing with the squirrels. We're not invading, western gray squirrel territory by releasing eastern gray squirrels in that area. Same thing. But you can certainly ask more questions if you have more questions about our non-native policy. But something we're very proud of at WildCare.
Okay, so something to understand when you're trying to decide where you want to volunteer in the hospital, and we'll talk about this a little bit in both more slides, but we commonly refer to the songbird hospital or the bird room. This is its own room within the clinic, within the hospital, where only the baby birds are taken care of and the adult songbirds. And again, because they require such specific care. So you can choose to do a bird room shift or a clinic shift. And once you've finished your first year of training, say you choose bird room, if you would like to learn how to also do clinic shifts, absolutely. We have so many volunteers who do both bird room and clinic, and ambassador and nature guide.
Once you're in, you get involved in a lot of things.
Yes, you can wear many hats, but to start, you'll pick either bird room or clinic. In the bird room, it's basically this picture on the bottom with the baby finch with the little syringe going into her mouth for feeding. You will learn how to syringe feed. So this picture is Seth, one of our student interns. This is an old photo. He was actually graduated college now.
A grown man.
He's a grown man now. But each of those baskets on the table contains a nest of probably 4 or 5 baby birds, and the timer starts and you go around and feed that one basket, and then you go to the next basket and feed those guys, and then the next basket, and hopefully if you're good enough you can get all the way around and feed everybody on your table before your 30-minute timer goes back up.
Yeah, that's really hard to do. I found my bird room shifts to be incredibly fatiguing because you're constantly feeding baby birds, but oh my gosh, what an amazing opportunity to get to do that.
So much fun. And it's just a really specialized skill that you learn, because the wrong thing with a baby that small can cause a lot of problems. So we're not gonna, if you start your shift in the bird room, we're not gonna just hand you a syringe and a naked baby bird and ask you to do anything. We're gonna make sure you have a lot of training first, and you're gonna start with the basics of food prep and cage cleaning before you're doing this. But the other really fun thing in the bird room, which is one of my personal favorites, is the baby crows. We do have a video of that in here as well, feeding those guys. So it's incredibly rewarding to get to feed these guys just every 30 minutes.
Yeah. Given the care they need, and then see them graduate up to the next level and ultimately be released is just amazing. Excuse me.
So then the clinic side is everybody else. So Songbird Hospital, the bird room, is pigeons and smaller songbirds plus the baby crows. Clinic is all other birds, so raptors, water birds, actually adult crows and ravens, and any of the reptiles and amphibians. So that's what's on the clinic side. So in helping you try to decide where you think you would fit in best or enjoy your time the most, those are the 2 locations.
Yep. So if you're interested in working with raptors, for instance, you would choose the clinic, and that would be okay.
So an important thing to note when you're signing up to volunteer: WildCare is open 365 days a year. We don't have holidays. The animals need to eat every single day. We are open 7 days a week. We have multiple shifts. Weekends are when we need the most help, usually Friday, Saturday, Sundays. Go ahead and click. So shift times. This is also something that can be a little confusing to folks. So we have a 9 to 1 shift that is happening in the bird room. As well, simultaneously, we also have a 9 to 1 shift that's happening in the clinic. So we need people in both locations. And then same thing from 1 to 5. And that is year round, every single day. And then during baby season, which is spring and summer, usually depends, you never know what Mother Nature is going to throw at you. Usually it starts in April. So April, May, June, July, August. We have extended hours in the bird room. So the bird room is open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. during that time, because again, all of those baby birds need to eat from sun up to sundown. So clinic is still going 9 to 5, but bird room is now 7 to 9 p.m. so that we open a couple of extra shifts. We will not have brand new volunteers doing the 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. shift, because that shift is only syringe feeding baby birds. We need to get you started on the main shift with the basic skills first before you do that. But then the 5 to 9 shift is a great shift too for those of you who maybe can't make this commitment of a 9 to 1 or 1 to 5 because of a 9 to 5 job. But come after work around 5 or 6 and stay till 9 and help us feed birds and close up the hospital. That's actually a really good shift for a lot of folks who have.
It's a cool opportunity too, because you're there sort of after hours. The one thing I will point out is that the bird room is the only place that has these expanded shifts during baby season. The clinic shifts are still 9 to 1 or 1 to 5.
And at this time, with COVID restrictions, all of our volunteer opportunities in the hospital are for 18 years old and up.
Yep. Look at our commitment here.
So we do realize that we ask for a very large commitment, and we do this because it takes so much to train people to be able to work with wild animals. This can be dangerous if you don't do it right for yourself, for the animals, for the people you're working with. So it takes us a lot of time to be able to train you. And so once we invest that time, we really hope that you will stay with us for at least 1 year. What we consider a year is baby season, so through March through November. So definitely please be thinking of that. We don't want you to start and then end up saying after 2 months, like, oh no, this isn't for me, because again, it's going to take us so much time to an investment in you to get you trained to do your shifts. And we would like you to stay forever and ever. We have volunteers who have been with us for 20 or 30 years. And volunteers who are with us for 5 to 10 years as well. So
yeah, it's amazing how dedicated people are, and people that come back take a year hiatus after they've had their experience and then come back for another 5 or 10 years.
Yes. So you will be doing, once you apply, and we'll go over this again at the end of this orientation, you will have a mandatory hospital shadowing shift. That'll be about 2 or 3 hours where you come in and you get to hang out with people who are working shifts and see what it's really like and learn some of the skills and meet people and ask them questions. Then you're going to have 5 different mandatory volunteer training classes, and they're all online. So you'll be able to do those on your own time, just sometime before you start your first shifts. We ask that people take the same shift every week for at least the first 6 weeks. And the reason for that is because it's, again, so much time is invested in training. Each shift has their own 2 or 3 people that work it and their own supervisor. So when you come in, if your supervisor is Allison, she's going to know everything you learned the week before and the week before and know where to keep you every week. If you're changing around shifts with different people, it's harder to keep track.
Well, it can also be even dangerous for the animals.
Yeah.
If you have an inexperienced person. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically it's for your own benefit too, to get the best out of training. And also what's really important is our shifts become a family, and they're a really tight knit team. And so your supervisor is going to learn what you know and what all your shift mates know. And we also rotate what you get to do on every given day. So this week, you're the one that cleans the poop out of the cage while I'm holding the hawk. Next week, you're the one that gets to hold the hawk while I clean the poop. So it's really important to just have that consistency on shift. We always like to point out that this commitment is for individuals. So if you're making this commitment to volunteer and you want to do it with a child or someone who's 18 or older, I guess at this point,
right,
or a partner,
or spouse or partner,
or a housemate, that's great. But you need to know that if you make this commitment, you are responsible to come to your shift. And if your person you're volunteering with cannot make a shift, it doesn't excuse you from not making your shift. So please make sure you know that you still have to get to your shift, even if your person that you're volunteering with can't. So make sure if you're not sharing a car, you have transportation and those kind of things. And the reason is because there's such short staff shifts. If there's only 5 people on a shift and you and one other person aren't there that day, at least 3 people, it really puts everybody in a hard place.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh yes, and we do talk a lot about your commitment, and obviously we're asking for a massive commitment, but we also know that you have a life, and you're gonna have vacations, you're gonna have trips, you'll get sick or have other things come up.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But obviously we can make accommodations for that, and there's a very clear system on how to let us know when you're going to be here or not. And we always ask for as much advance notice as possible, but it's, again, really important to know, we ask you right now to be honest with yourself. If you want to do this and you're going to make this commitment, that you don't have like a 3-month trip to Europe coming up, right? So you're finish all of your training, like, so I'm going to be gone in the middle of baby season from July to September. Please just be honest about that. And if that's the case, then wait and start volunteering after that commitment.
Yeah, WildCare, especially the Wildlife Hospital, has a very small staff. And so the majority of the animal care in the hospital is done by the volunteers. So you are not just some superfluous person that doesn't really need to be there. We actually really, really need you to know the commitment and make that commitment. So keep that in mind as you watch. Oops. All right. Talk about the application process.
Sure.
It's a process.
It's a process.
And it's a new process.
It's a very new process. One of the benefits to kind of come out of COVID for us is having everything be online, which we never thought to do before. So, excuse me, this orientation, please watch all the way through to the end. At the very end of this video, there will be a password that you will need to be able to complete your application if you do decide to volunteer with us.
This is how we make sure that you watched the entire orientation.
Exactly. It was either that or a quiz, and we figured nobody wants to do quizzes
No one wants to do
once you're out of
quizzes.
school.
So watch all the way through. You'll get the link and the password at the end of this presentation.
And then if we have availability, we're going to reach out to you by via email, and then arrange a time to complete a 15-minute Zoom interview with you. Go ahead to the next one. And then we will be, assuming the interview goes well and you decide it's for you and we decide that you're a good fit, then we will schedule you for an in-person tour in that shadowing shift. It's really important to note this is an application process. Just because you apply does not mean that you will be accepted. We have very, very limited shift space right now on some shifts because of COVID. So we are definitely going to take the most qualified people and the people who can work those shifts that we have openings for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. And yes, obviously at the end of your shadowing shift, if again it's a good fit and everybody's on board, then you'll get more instructions at that time. And then yes, we'll set you up with Google Classroom and all of that stuff. That's fine.
Okay, moving on. Ooh, some warnings. Yep.
Okay, well, actually, this is basically what I just said. Just that it's very competitive, and we want to make sure everybody is a good fit, from personality to just the time commitment that you can give and expectations
and skills
on both sides and skill level.
Someone with previous animal handling skills is probably going to be prioritized over someone without them. So let us know during the application process about your particular competencies, and we'll pay attention to that. All right, and yes, and on the website, discoverwildcare.org, in the volunteer section, we will have other opportunities where you can get involved. So if you can't make the time commitment, or other reasons that volunteering in the wildlife hospital isn't for you, or it's not a good fit for our shift availability, there are other opportunities that you can check out as well, and we'd love to have you involved with those.
All right, so the training classes that you're going to take. Intro to zoonoses. Zoonoses are diseases and parasites, diseases that are transmissible from animals to humans. And so there's a lot of instruction on that, on just how to stay safe and proper PPE and everything we provide to keep you safe. And clinic basics and bird room basics are exactly what they sound like. OSHA, obviously, for more safety. And then I think there's a compassionate objectivity class. And what that is if you've ever heard of compassion fatigue, it's just a fantastic class that is taught by a local veterinarian who works with another wildlife hospital on basically preventing burnout and how to deal with the death and euthanasia that we do see in the pain and suffering that does come across. I mean, to be honest, if a wild animal is bad enough to allow a person to pick them up and bring them to us, they're already in really bad shape. And sometimes those situations are pretty hard, hit by car, things like that. So just learning how to deal with that and just not burn out.
And I'll say that is something that often deters people from volunteering. It can be an emotionally challenging volunteer position, so that's something to keep in mind.
But the benefit is we're here to make it right.
So true.
And
yes,
that's what makes it doable, is that they have a place to go at a state-of-the-art hospital, and all these people are going to take care of them. And then the COVID class and the duckling class. So basically, if you decide you're going to do a bird room shift, you will take the COVID care class, and if you're going to do a clinic shift, you're going to take the duckling care class. You can take both of them. You don't have to only take one, but those are the requirements for this. And let's see. Yep, all that will be on Gmail. If you don't have a Gmail account, we can work with you on that, but we prefer that you do. Just makes it easier for all of the classes, but we can work with you if you don't. Yep.
Oh, this is our opportunity to see your baby crows.
Oh yes, so we're going to show a video here of feeding some baby crows, and again, some of my favorites, and just the most amazing babies in the world. They're so smart, and this is one of the things that you get to do is tweezer feed. So basically, you're using tweezers to pick up the food and show them how to eat, because even though they may be standing in their food bowl and they look like almost full-grown adults, they're still very young babies, and they're used to mom and dad coming in and feeding them and sticking their head up and having it full of food, and they don't realize that they can actually pick it up themselves and eat. And if I could do nothing all day except teach baby birds how to pick up food and eat, it's the most rewarding thing. Like, you just spend a shift picking food up and dropping it in front of them, so they look down and then bang at it, and put some on their feet so it annoys them and they peck at it. And when that light goes on and they realize that they can feed themselves, it's such a rewarding thing. It is so much fun. So
right here. So what are you doing when you do that? So the point of tweezer feeding is to try to teach them how to self-feed. Because they're little babies and they're used to mom coming from the top like this and feeding. And so they got to learn to look down and realize that their food is right here. You can pick it up yourself. And sometimes if you put it down in front of them, sometimes if you put it on their toes, they don't like it and they'll pick it up. Just thinking about it. You get curious. Oh, there we go. How about that, right? Can you eat it by yourself?
I love that video. Just spectacular.
They're the best babies. All right, so your shadowing shift, what to expect. Basically, you're going to work a little bit in the bird room and a little bit in the clinic and get a tour of the facility so you know what goes on in each place. Because again, we realize it's really hard to make a decision just listening to us talk on a Zoom interview. So you're going to get to see the place and then get to be in both locations and see the work that gets to be done before you have to make your decision. And basically we encourage people to just think of that as a hands-on working interview. Like you're not just going to be passively sitting and watching. We want you to get involved and show how excited you are that you're going to be a good fit, and we'll get you working. So you're going to wear clothes that you don't mind getting dirty. So you'll be helping with food prep and some cage cleaning. But it's important to note you will not be doing any animal handling that day because you've not been trained yet. You haven't taken your zoonosis class, but you'll get to see all of that being done.
Don't hand you an owl on your first day. No, that would be a terrible choice. So if you're not handling animals immediately, what are you doing?
So this is where we try to discourage you from volunteering. So dishes. Everybody wants to volunteer because they want to like pet the baby fawns, and that does not happen.
Nope.
If you have pets, if you've worked with animals, you know it's cleaning and feeding poop and feeding and cleaning and cleaning. It's a lot of dishes, definitely.
Right. At any given moment, we can have a couple of hundred animals in the wildlife hospital. And so that is a tremendous amount of dishes. What else are you going to get to do?
Laundry. Absolutely. Cleaning cages. Patient records, you'll learn how to use our database. Every animal we have has their own patient record in the database. And a lot of food prep, especially in the songbird room. This volunteer in the bottom with the tray of food. It's just constant food prep for animals that eat every 30 to 45 minutes. They go through a lot of food. And then feeding the animals. That'll be the kind of the last thing that you learn.
I should have waited on my click for that.
No, that's okay. You learn the basics first. Everybody kind of has to earn their stripes. And so you'll be cleaning and feeding and watching all of the handling and feeding before you're actually doing it hands-on.
Yeah, it's a very dirty job. Mm-hmm. And we want to throw that out at the very beginning. This is not a cuddly hands-off, this is a lot of poop. Yep. This is some gross food, right? Mm-hmm. Lot of unpleasant things that you end up cutting up for the animals. It doesn't always smell great. It is cramped quarters. We have no air conditioning in the summer, so the whole WildCare hospital can get very, very, very hot. It can get very, very cold in the winter as well. We just want to, and you'll recognize this if you do a shadowing shift, have people be aware of the challenges of this volunteer opportunity. Yes. You're doing amazing work. It is an incredible opportunity. There is nothing else like this that you're going to be able to do. But it involves a lot of cleaning, a lot of dishes, and a lot of laundry. So just keep that in mind.
All right, so health and safety rules and regs. So some of the things that we want to make sure people know is that, so this is different in every state, and it's actually different in every county and region. So we are in Region 3, which is basically the Bay Area, concerned by Fish and Wildlife, and they do not license individual people to rehabilitate wildlife. They only license centers. So in order to work with wildlife, you have to volunteer at a center. It's not the same in other places in the state where there's not all of these centers in one area. But what we really need people to know is that while you're a volunteer with us, you are working under our permit and our licenses. So you have to know and follow the rules, because if you don't, whatever you do could cause us to be fined or actually lose our permit.
Could actually shut us down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So very, very important to keep that in mind.
So one of the most basic things about this is that we need people to know that federal law prohibits anybody from taking and keeping any part, feathers, eggs, nests of any native migratory bird. So a lot of times people will be cleaning a cage and they'll find a great horned owl feather in the cage. You cannot take that home.
Right.
So we realize the odds of a Fish and Wildlife officer coming to your house and finding that owl feather are pretty slim, but you never know. So please make sure that you're following all of these rules to keep WildCare safe.
Even more than you doing it, I find people often have their friends say, "Oh, can you get me a hawk feather? I love red-tailed hawks. Can you get me a hawk feather?" The answer always has to be no.
Exactly. One of the other Fish and Wildlife requirements is that every volunteer and staff member has to take a minimum of one continuing education class a year, and we will provide that class and give you options for other classes at other locations, and that you read our MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with the state. And so when you sign on and are accepted as a volunteer into the program, we give you this document and you have to read it and sign that you've read it so that we know that you understand and have read the rules. And I think another important part to this is because you volunteer with us does not mean then you can rescue and rehab wildlife on your own. You'd be like, oh, I was a WildCare volunteer 10 years ago. I can raise these crows all by myself.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So make sure that you understand and follow these regs just to keep us safe. Because if you get WildCare shut down, it's 3,500 animals a year that will have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So very important stuff, and we'll make sure that you have all that information. So another common question is, what do I wear on my ship? So no open-toed shoes at all. I cannot wear flip-flops because we mentioned the poop and the dirty things. You don't want to drop those on your feet. Also walk around with scissors, knives, and needles. You don't want to trip while you're carrying an animal because you stubbed your toe. We say no jewelry, and obviously within reason. You can keep your wedding band on or things like that, but we don't want like dingly earrings or long necklaces or bracelets so that when you reach into a cage, it can get stuck on the cage and break. So that's usually the biggest reason we don't want you to break your
bracelets
jewelry.
especially are really bad for that. And also birds are often attracted to shiny things. So if you're reaching into say an enclosure full of scrub jays and have a shiny bracelet or ring on, you might get pecked for that.
Yep. We ask folks to not wear any bright colors, again, within reason, but just because the bright reds or the fluorescent yellows and that kind of thing can be scary to the animals.
Yeah.
Scented colognes, perfumes, lotions, obviously you can take a shower and wash your hair and wear some lotion, but just please don't douse yourself in cologne before you come in. It's scary for the animals, and it's also
it might smell good to us, but it just smells like chemicals to the animals.
And also to your coworkers and stuff when you're in the hospital.
Someone eye-watering wearing too much cologne next to you is a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
And I always say wear clothes that can be pooped on. Scrubs are fantastic. Buy yourself some scrubs. Things you don't care about. It's not just the poop. Honestly, it's the bleach. Because we use bleach to clean everything, and whatever you wear, you will get bleach on. Most volunteers have one outfit that they wear to WildCare. It's not a fashion show. Nobody cares. So just wear the same thing every shift and throw it in the wash, and it's easier to keep it clean and separate from everything else. And then now with COVID restrictions and guidelines, so WildCare will follow whatever the Marin County and CDC guidelines are. So that sometimes changes depending on what's happening with COVID. But currently, everybody is highly encouraged to wear face masks, and everybody pretty much does. I can't really actually think of anybody who doesn't in the hospital and in the building right now. And it's required if you do not have your vaccine, but it's optional if you don't. But again, pretty much everybody wears it inside.
I think just to be safe, we're all aware, and it's close quarters, and you're breathing over each other's shoulders. So wearing those masks, I think, is something.
And you'll see in some of these photos, there may be pictures without face masks. A lot of these are old photos that we're using.
Yeah, pre-COVID, before we all wore masks.
Yeah.
Another of the questions that people frequently ask are about exposure to diseases or the potential to get sick.
So very important to note, your safety comes first. A current tetanus vaccine is required. So within the last 10 years, the rule of thumb is if you don't remember the last time you got it,
I was gonna say, yeah, I have no idea when I got my last tetanus shot. Oh, that probably means that you're due.
And that has really nothing to do with the animals, because you're not going to get bit because we're going to train you so well. So,
exactly.
It's really because of the facility and the cages and stuff. We have, metal cages, and some things are rusty outside and things like that.
Yep.
And then current COVID-19 vaccination and mask wearing are strongly encouraged. And again, as I said, non-vaccinated individuals are required to wear masks.
Yep.
We do not have pregnant women working with the animals. As far as we know, there's never been an issue in any wildlife hospital setting, but it's just such a high risk time that we ask that if you are pregnant that you don't work with the animals in care, but you can still work a shift, you can help answer phones, there's so many other things you could do, but just not working with the animals directly in the feces. And
it's something to think about if you're trying to become pregnant or planning to become pregnant. So that brings us back to that commitment that we require. If you're thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to try to get pregnant in the next couple of months, then that could well put you in a position where you sign up, get trained, and all of a sudden, good for you, I have to leave. But it is a consideration for sure.
And a lot of people ask about rabies and rabies vaccines. You do not need your rabies pre-exposure vaccines to work at WildCare. If you have them, that's a great bonus. And
let us know that you have them for
let
sure.
Us know. We're going to talk about the level system in a little bit, and that will get you qualified for to help with more animals than you would normally. But honestly, you're not going to miss out on anything, because the rabies vector species that we have, the adults like the raccoons, the skunks, you're not going to be handling anyway. The staff are going to do those. So that's not going to change anything. We wouldn't let you be handling an adult raccoon as a volunteer, regardless of your vaccine status. And
for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, and bats are staff only. And yeah, anyway, they don't go home in foster care with any volunteers. So you're really not going to miss out on anything. They're very expensive. If your insurance doesn't cover them, they're over $500. So what I always tell folks is, if you're worried about missing out on an opportunity to work with any of these species, finish your first season with us, your first baby season, your first year. And then if you really feel like you missed some chances and you still want to get your rabies pre-exposure vaccines, go for it, but wait for that first year.
The other thing to talk about here is that you do not need to be worried about getting rabies at WildCare, right? So
I think we talked about
we talk about that next? Okay.
Okay.
We'll go on to that then, yeah. Last slide, people with autoimmune deficiencies, or if you've gone through chemotherapy, anything that inhibits your immune system, you probably want to talk to staff and really talk to your doctor as well about the option of volunteering at WildCare. It's just, you're going to be exposed to things that you're not exposed to in the normal world. So,
and we as staff cannot give you
Correct.
recommendations on that. You have to talk to your doctor about that and find out what is safe and healthy for your particular situation.
Yep.
All right, physical demands. This is a very physically demanding volunteer opportunity. You are, Allison mentioned this earlier, cutting up disgusting things like defrosted mice and fish. If you love the carnivores, you love the raptors and the baby bobcats, in order to feed them, you have to feed them what they eat.
Right.
And that is something that gets a lot of people. So if you can't do this, I myself am a vegetarian, but I'm not going to make the hawks be vegetarian, so I have to give them the mice. They're not live, they are frozen, purchased. So you can, if you don't want to do that, then we recommend working in the songbird hospital, because songbirds don't eat any of those products, and so you can work with wildlife but not have to deal with that part of it. And also, we won't make you do it your very first shift.
Right.
So even if you're in the clinic, we'll let you work into that over the next couple of months. Lifting or moving up to 50 pounds. This is not a die-hard have to, can't qualify if you can't. We just want people to be aware that you're lifting heavy cages to move them outside, and you're helping with large animals and things like that. So that's important to know.
And even leaning down and lifting, you're doing a fair amount of that. Oh yeah, okay.
Standing on a concrete floor. So WildCare is a very old building. Nothing is ergonomically correct at all. And your shift is a 4-hour shift. There's not really room for breaks, right? Like you hit the ground running, and you have your 4-hour shift, and you're going to be on your feet the entire time. So if you can't stand and be active for 4 hours, then this is not going to be the opportunity for you in the hospital with direct animal care. We have, again, lots of other opportunities and places in the hospital and things that you can work, but just like that picture of our volunteer feeding at the Songbird table, you know, you're standing and leaning over all of the baskets a lot, so
yes,
physically demanding.
could be physically demanding.
That's
Yeah.
what we just
Oh yeah,
said.
bending over tables and sinks. Yeah. Yep. We do a lot of that.
And yeah, again, dexterity, because you're picking up little birds or holding great horned owl legs and things like that. So that's important.
Yeah, WildCare treats as many as over 200 different species, and you're talking big animals, small animals, and that dexterity is very important. Also, because WildCare's facility is so small, there are caging on higher levels, so it does sometimes require reaching up.
And going on little step ladders and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, stooping, crawling. Yep.
And this is a little dramatic, but risking possible exposure to caustic chemicals and aggressive animals. Again, it's just, we use bleach for everything. So we dilute bleach when we're cleaning the cages, and dilute bleach in the sinks for dishes. So if you're allergic to bleach, I'm so sorry, but there is not a thing we can do about it, because that is the only thing that kills a lot of the things that we deal with to keep our patients safe. So again, lots of other opportunities. But working in the clinic or the bird room would not be a fit. Okay, and we're going to teach you how to keep yourself safe in the zoonosis class and all the hands-on training. So it may sound risky, but it's not. I mean, before COVID, we had volunteers 12 to 15 years old, 12 to 18 years old. And again, I always tell folks, if it was that dangerous, the health department and all the powers that be would let us have even students helping us do this. So as long as you do your training, you listen to your training,
And you follow the training.
guidelines, it's totally safe. You will be fine. Yeah. Another frequent question is pets. We always recommend that make sure that your pets are fully vaccinated.
Everybody that volunteers and works at WildCare has pets. So
Yes.
we all come home to our animals. We are all aware of the fact that we're working with animals and then coming home to animals. And one of the things that we do is making sure that you have a change of clothes for the operation time that you're in the hospital that you then change before you go home.
Yep. And with vaccinations, a lot of times people will say they might have an older pet that can't be vaccinated anymore. Again, we would just say to talk to your veterinarian about that. And their concern is distemper. We do have some of our patients that will come in that have distemper, and that is something that you could possibly, incredibly difficult and rare, but take home to your pets if you're not following protocols and changing your clothes when you get home and things like that. So any questions, talk to your veterinarian just to be safe. Obviously, washing your hands frequently, which we're all really good at nowadays. I highly recommend having a separate pair of shoes that you just wear at WildCare, and stick them in your trunk when you're done with your shift, and don't even have to worry about bleaching. But when you go home, go to your laundry room, change your clothes, change your shoes, and change into something else before you go home.
Yeah, we'll sometimes have, if there's an issue with something that could potentially be contagious, you would have a bleach bath that you step into. But I do feel like the shoes are going to be the way that something could be transferred more easily than others. So it's a great way to make sure you're safe.
And then birds specifically, if you have pet birds, you want to speak to staff or your veterinarian. And the only reason for this is that there are some things that are slightly more transmissible from bird to bird. Usually it has to do with the feather mites or feather lice, that if you're holding, say, a pigeon for care, and then you put them back and you do your shift and you go home, if you didn't realize that someone got in your sweater, and then you don't go change when you go home and you pick up your bird, they could get on your bird. So again,
it's also possible to give your mammal pets fleas.
Yes, Allison has said we all have pets at home, and we have not had any instances of anybody bringing home any diseases or anything in all of our hundreds of volunteers and staff members over the years. So again, if you're following protocols and using common sense, this is not really a risk. We just want to make sure you're aware, because these are common questions people have.
Yep.
You talk about social media. Let's talk a little bit about one of the very important things, because everybody has a cell phone nowadays, is you are not allowed to bring your cell phone with you into shifts. You can't have them be on, and part of the reason is accidental ringing and noises that will scare the animals. But the big reason is taking photos, and we really ask people not to take photos of our animals, because it's so stressful for them. We're going to talk about stress on animals, but another reason is following our rules and regulations.
Yeah, going back to WildCare's permits and the authority under which we operate, we are very, very strictly overseen by both California Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And one of the primary things that we have to be aware of is how wild animals are presented to the public. And one of the biggest things we can never do is in any way make a wild animal look like that animal would make a good pet. So we are, of course, extremely careful in terms of how we handle the animals, how we work with animals, but somebody picking up an opossum, moving the opossum to the other cage, a picture taken of that could be misconstrued if that picture is put on social media and is seen by somebody with the authority to shut WildCare down. That is actually something that could shut WildCare down. So we are very, very strict about that. You will see staff members, me primarily, other people moving into the wildlife hospital and taking photos. We can send you those images. You can have access to those images as a volunteer, but we don't want you taking those photos. And that includes in a foster care situation if you have baby animals at home, because those images can really be easily misconstrued. They need to always have proper protective equipment on. There's lots of different ramifications. So no cell phones in the hospital.
And we always just want to look professional.
Exactly.
The professionals that we are. And that being said, I always tell volunteers is it's so cool what you get to do and what you get to see every day. And we know you want to share that with your family and friends. We will absolutely allow you to take some photos. So just ask us. If you say, oh my gosh, peregrine falcons are my spirit animal, and I know you have one, is it possible for me to get a photo of one? And what we'll do is, if that falcon happens to be going in for an exam that day and he's going to have a hood on and he's going to, get a wing wrap, we'll be like, hey, here's your chance, come on in. Or if it's not safe and it doesn't work out, like Allison said, if we have photos, we were happy to share those with you. So we don't want to tell you no, never, because then we know people will go and sneak. The other thing we do is when an animal is under anesthesia, like we currently have a bobcat kitten in care, and they're incredibly easy to habituate, and so no one is allowed to go in except 2 staff members who are wearing full-on ghillie suits. But camouflage suits. But when we take her in for her evaluations and she's under anesthesia, then we can have people come in and see her when it's safe.
Yeah, we really are aware of that, and it's funny, we get a little jaded. We've both been here for about 20 years, and we're like, oh yeah, bobcat, cool. But we do realize that as a new volunteer, you're going to really, really want to have that opportunity. So we do everything we can to give you that opportunity, but it always has to be within the parameters of what is right for the animal, safe for the animal, and what is right for WildCare. So keeping those things in mind at all times. So you want to go into that?
Yeah, so basically just our goal is to rehab these animals and get them back into the wild as fast as possible with as little intervention as possible. And one of the reasons, as our main concern, one of the things we do is keeping these animals wild. So another way,
not taking pictures is part of that.
Not taking pictures, because again, that exposes them over and over to people. If you can imagine that you're a terrified animal locked in a cage in pain, even though you're on pain meds, because of your injury and stress, and then somebody comes and poop, I'll just take a picture, no one will know. And then someone else on the shift comes and does it, and that poor animal is exposed over and over. It's important for everybody to know these patients are not pets. Volunteering at WildCare is not going to allow you the opportunity to cuddle and pet baby fawns and bottle feed bunnies and things like that. That is not this opportunity.
Yeah, if you're looking for an opportunity to get up close, personal, and bond with animals, volunteer at your local domestic animal shelter. Those animals benefit from learning to be comfortable with humans and human companionship. Wild animals absolutely do not.
Yep, we keep our contact with our patients to a minimum. And they are all scared of us, and a lot of people will say, oh, he knew I was helping him when I picked up. They don't understand, as much as we would like to believe that we are helping them, they're scared literally to death. And so we have to keep our contact to a minimum. So one of the ways we do that too, and one of the reasons, again, it's important that you're on the same shift all the time, is we try to put everything together for patient care in a single swoop. So basically, this opossum needs a medication and an evaluation and is cage clean to be fed. So as a shift, you will coordinate with med staff and say, okay, we're ready for that opossum. You have his food already. Med staff will go in and take him, do the eval, do his medications while you guys are cleaning and feeding, and then we'll put him back in. So that's his only interaction for the day, as opposed to I pick him up to medicate him and then he goes back in, and then you guys pick him up to clean him and he goes back in, and then somebody opens the door to put food in. So we want to minimize that as much as possible. So we just work like a well-oiled machine as much as we can to prevent that.
Exactly. I had a friend that used to say that while being in wildlife rehabilitation, if you're the animal, is a lot like alien abduction. Right? You're suddenly swooped up out of the cornfield, horrible, weird things happen, and then the next thing you know, boom, you're back in the cornfield. So that keep that in mind when you're thinking about it. Let's see. Yeah. So the only contact with the animals when they're being fed, medicated, or cleaned. I
just said.
Oh yeah. So it's one thing I wanted to mention on the other slide was that the only time that an adult wild animal, is that on here? Okay.
It's one of the other slides.
Okay.
So our patients are not given names.
We'll get there.
We've been doing this presentation for years together. Animals are not given names. They're given patient ID numbers.
The other reason for that, of course, is that we get over 3,500 animals a year, and that would be an awful lot of names.
Yes, to come up with and keep straight. But it also helps a little bit mentally for you to not speak to the animals while you're cleaning and feeding them.
Yeah, it's so easy if you go in to clean an opossum's cage and the opossum is named Binky. It would be so easy to be like, oh, Binky, we're going to clean your cage. Binky, we're going to give you some food. If it's opossum 706, that compulsion just isn't there. So keeping those ID numbers is one of the main reasons that one of the main things we do to keep our patients wild.
A big thing for young animals. So foster care is something we'll talk about as well. Whenever we get these babies in, squirrels, raccoons, whoever they are, we never raise them alone. They're always raised with conspecifics, so other species are the same age, and basically to prevent them from habituating to humans. So they know, this baby knows he's a baby squirrel. And we try really hard to not talk in the words as much as possible, and if you do, with a very low voice. And then not peeking, which we talk about, and I think our next slide illustrates that.
Oh, and avoiding direct eye contact as well. And we have, and I know, again, people are like, oh, the animal knew I was helping him. The animal knew that, you know, he felt totally comfortable with me. The fact is that we look like predators to animals. If you think about, and one of the main reasons that we look like predators is because of the location of our eyes. If, as this slide shows, you think of other animals that need binocular vision in order to hunt, you've got your hawks, you've got your cats, you've got your coyotes, you have predators. And then you look at Steve, and Steve is an amazing guy, nicest guy you could ever imagine, takes care of our baby raccoons, incredibly great guy. But to an animal that is in care, every single one of these creatures staring at that animal, that is the same feeling of being predated upon. So you think about an animal that's in a cage, trapped, has nowhere to go. You open up the curtain and these two huge eyes are suddenly staring at that animal. That animal is going to be terrified. So doing everything we can to minimize that exposure and to other aspects of human behavior, our noise, our smells, our movements, everything that makes us loud and stressful to animals.
Yep. I think that's
yep, there we go. Oh yeah,
this is what
I was going to say. Yeah. So thinking about it in the wild, the only time that an adult wild animal is going to be picked up off the ground, the only time his feet are going to leave the ground, is if that animal is being captured as prey. So you think about the jackrabbit on the ground, the hawk comes down, grabs him, all of a sudden he's been picked up. So in any situation where an adult wild animal is being handled, that animal is convinced that the very next movement is going to be the one that breaks his neck and turns him into prey. So thinking about all of our wildlife hospital patients, anytime they are picked up, that's what they are thinking.
And just a random side note, is that picture on the very bottom is a ring-tailed cat.
Oh yeah.
Everybody always asks what those guys are.
Yeah, they are a relative of the raccoon. We don't get them very often at all, although we did hear a report of them being in Marin County. This guy came from Big Sur. And I have a friend that has one that lives in her attic. Erica.
And
out to Sacramento area. No, Sacramento area. Yeah, but always keeping in mind that the animals in our care are terrified, and doing everything we can to minimize that stress is key to their survival and eventual release. the stress. Many things cause the stress that the animals are under in the wildlife hospital.
Yep, already injured if they came to us and picked up by us, and then a car ride.
Oh yeah,
All of those things.
terrifying.
And eyes we've talked about, kind of all these things.
Being stared at, yeah, being picked up and handled. All of the things that humans do. We're jerky, we're loud, we're, there are so many cues that tell an animal in care that this is a predator coming at me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if we wear too much cologne. But the biggest factor about all of this is that this stress can actually kill the animal. Certainly can inhibit that animal's ability to heal and ultimately be released.
Yes, and some species are more susceptible to that than others. So jackrabbits and fawns, because of that, those guys, as soon as they're stabilized, are whisked off into home care and foster care, just because the slightest thing can just really cause them to literally die of stress. Heart attack, for lack of getting into really
well. And then even the sound of a slamming door can startle a jackrabbit to the point that he launches himself into the side of the wall and can break his own neck. It is quite literally the sounds and things we do in the wildlife hospital, whether right with the animal or just in the vicinity, can cause enough stress to actually kill that animal. So always remembering that stress level is extremely high and doing everything we can to mitigate that makes it a much better experience.
So, important note, release is always our ultimate goal. We are basically, go ahead for the next thing, please. There we go.
Okay.
So one of the things for people to know is that we release all of our patients back to where they came from. One, it's a state and federal mandate, but the reasons are very important because we want to get that animal back to where they came from, because they know the territory, they know food, water, denning if it's a mammal, and they might have a mate waiting for them or babies waiting for them. So it's very important that we get these guys back to where they came from. We participate in as many post-release studies as possible. This photo is a turkey vulture, one of our favorites. So we partner with many organizations to do as many studies, scientific studies as we can. Golden Gate Raptor Observatory has been tagging the blue tag on his wing turkey vultures in the area and doing a study on migration. And so this guy was one that came into us in care, was hit by a car and had a fractured humerus, which after about 2 months in care was healed and he was ready for release, and they tagged him for us and we released him back to where he came from. And if you recognize any of you who are local in the San Francisco area, the background is down at the Presidio. And basically that is where he hangs out. And we get tag recordings almost every day of him. People get so excited to see a bird with a tag and they call us. And he is now, 4 years post-release. So knowing that our work matters and makes a difference and that these animals actually do survive post-release is incredibly rewarding and fulfilling just for us, right, mentally and emotionally, but scientifically it shows that the work we're doing actually does work.
We'll get, we call them boomerang patients occasionally as well, when you'll have an animal that especially was raised as a baby or whatever, grew up through our foster care system, released, and then any number of years later, randomly gets hit by a car or, something happens to that animal that was completely unrelated to his very peculiar childhood. And that animal comes back and we'll do the scan for the microchip or if there's a band on the leg and realize that this animal was in care, X number of years ago. I think our longest was 13 years for the raccoon? Yep, and knowing that the animals that we have cared for do successfully continue to thrive in the wild is incredibly important.
So we microchip our mammals before release, so that's how we scan them. Everybody who comes in, we'll get those returns. And then we also need release sites. So this is another way you can help, whether you're a volunteer or not. While we are required to release the adults back to where they came from, we have a lot more leeway with the babies that we hand raise. So because we never release babies alone. So say we have a group of raccoons and one came in as an orphan from Novato and one or two came from San Rafael, that group of 3 is going to be raised together. And when it's time for release, we're not going to take that one and stick him in Novato all by himself and the other 2 go to San Rafael. There's safety in numbers. They've bonded. They're going to be released together so we can find the best release site possible within reason of where they came from. So if you have a good release site that usually has year-round water supply.
The water supply is the hardest.
It's huge in the
and
summer.
not a man-made one. Yeah, you want to have a natural water source on
But
your
just
property.
depends on the species, obviously. So if that's something you know of or have available, just let us know.
Yeah, definitely. Whether you end up volunteering in the hospital or not. Oh, I
Yes.
love that picture. Isn't that a stunning photo?
Yes. So not everybody can go home. And this is something we always want to touch on, is that we are really good at what we do. And we do everything we can, as I mentioned, from the smallest mouse to the biggest eagle. We will spare no expense or medical treatment option. But sometimes we just can't save them all. And the best thing that we have to offer that animal is a quick, humane euthanasia. And that is something that medical staff will do. And that is not something a volunteer will ever do or be expected to do or be a part of. We just want you to know that that does in fact happen, even though it's, well, it is the last thing we want the least. However, it is the biggest gift that we have, that we can actually offer some of these animals that are just injured beyond repair, that wouldn't survive. So we're actually very grateful to have that capability. But again, we just want people to know that it is part of
It's a reality of being in the wildlife hospital. Absolutely.
But you don't have to be there for any of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So we just picked 2020 stats just to give you guys an idea of survival rates. And this 2020 were 3,488 animals. This year, as of this recording, is currently December of 2021, and we are already at 3,581 animals. So years vary, it just depends, but it's.
We usually say between 3,500 and 4,000 animals, and it tends to fall in between there.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to show it. Excellent.
So becoming a hospital volunteer opens the doors to other opportunities. We will talk about that. We just really like that picture.
Look at him.
So for those of you who don't know, that is a baby pigeon.
He's so cute.
They are adorable. And if you don't like pigeons, it's just because you haven't spent any time with any yet. So level system is something that we designed so that volunteers have an idea of where they can go and things to look forward to and work towards. So level 1 would be where you start. As we mentioned, dishes.
Did I mention dishes?
Did we mention
Did we
dishes?
mention laundry?
Exactly. Food prep and cage clean. So when you start, expect that this is where you're going to start. You're not going to be handling, you know, the baby raccoons and the eagle on your first shift. So this will take a while. Level 2 is when you get to start to learn handling restraint. You get to assist medical staff while we're, you know, restraining an animal, learning how to give medications, getting to weigh the patients, learning to syringe feed, and then also training and supervising other volunteers. So our supervisors on each shift are actually all current volunteers. And so if this is something you love doing, managing and training and teaching people, once you are comfortable and you get through your system or your levels, and you want to train other volunteers that are coming in new, we love that.
And what's the time between level 1 and level 2? Is that usually the first year?
Usually you can expect to be a level 1 volunteer for your first baby season, because there's so much happening. And I think, go ahead, is level 3. Yeah. So level 3 volunteers is when you start to learn how to do and assist med staff with physical exams, administering medications, handling the bigger scary animals like the great horned owls, and learning tube feeding. So in general, you can think of your first season as level 1 and then moving up to 2 and 3, but it's a very fluid thing and it's different for every person. So some people are perfectly happy coming in. They just want to do the dishes, laundry, clean outside cages, and do their shift, and that's it.
You know, they're contributing that way and making a huge difference for the animals that way.
Fine.
Yeah.
And other people are like, I want to learn how to do medications and subcutaneous fluids, and so it's totally self-driven. It is up to you. The more you want to learn, the more shifts you do, the more you talk to med staff and say, can I learn this when I'm ready, when you think I'm ready? And a lot of times you'll be, maybe everyone will be a level 1, but maybe you'll be a level 2 in third room care, but a level 3 in clinic care because you did a lot of clinic shifts and you know how to medicate in there, but you didn't in the third room yet. So lots of variations, and we're very much a teaching hospital. We're very proud of that. Our volunteers, after your first season, get to do a lot of stuff. I think more so than any other hospital I'm aware of, where if you are motivated and you're following procedures and taking those classes, you can learn how to do all of these things. And it's especially great if you're somebody who's looking into going to veterinary school, getting a vet 10 degree, anything like that. So you don't have to. Foster care is kind of a carrot that we dangle in front of people too, to get them to finish their first year commitment, is learning how to take care of these babies at home. So we cannot physically fit all 3,000 animals into our building at once. We have a very extensive foster care program, squirrel team, raccoon team, opossum team, and basically any of those babies that need to be fed through the night, like the ones in these photos, because we do actually sometimes go home at night during baby season. They go home with trained volunteers, so you can learn how to properly take care of these guys. And we don't send you home with babies again your first season, because again, we want to make sure that you know all of our systems and vice versa. But you would just have to have a room that you can dedicate specifically to those animals when you have them in your care. It doesn't even have to be a big room. When I first moved here, I was living in a teeny tiny in-law unit under a house, and I had no walls other than the bathroom. And so I could only take home little teeny babies that were in little bitty critter keepers that had their eyes closed. And so I did that age. And then once their eyes opened and they needed a bigger cage, I passed them on to somebody else on the team. So we can fit anybody's house situation and anybody's work schedule. We have some babies that are fed every 3 hours around the clock. We have some that are only fed 4 times a day.
We have some that are fed every 20 minutes, the baby hummingbirds.
Yeah,
and a volunteer that takes those to work with her.
Yes, if you're a really cool boss and you want to do hummingbirds, that's awesome. So we can fit anybody's work and life schedule. And you can also have pets. That's the other thing, is people always say, "Oh, I have cats, I can't take them home." Not a problem, as long as you have that room with a door that when you have those babies home with you, you can keep your pets out. And then you have to be aware of the time commitment. That is different for every animal. So basically, you don't just get to take home some cute opossums for one night. We ask you to probably have them for a week or two, but it varies all the time depending on the age and our patient load. So just
foster care is pretty amazing.
It's really
I'm on the squirrel team and the skunk team.
Yes, it's really
Melanie's on all the teams.
The most fun thing that we get to do. It's kind of the cheating part of saying that you don't get any hands-on and they're all stressed all of the time. Being able to do foster care, and of course you still have to do it properly, and we're not making pets out of them, but it's amazing to get to spend time getting these animals to learn and grow in the wild.
Yeah, no, it just is incredible. And of course, graduating them from, tiny critter keeper to larger cage to outdoor cage, they're also spending less and less time with any interaction with humans. So by the time we actually release the hand-raised babies that we have, those guys are completely wild, have no interest in human beings, or properly, wary of human beings. So it's just a cool process to watch the whole thing.
Really rewarding.
Yeah.
And then the most important message is that regardless of your level system or your level of seniority, you're always going to be doing dishes and laundry and cleaning poop. It doesn't matter. I do it on my shifts. Everybody does it. You don't ever graduate from level 1 and not have to clean cages anymore. Go ahead and click. I think this is our former board president, and she was helping clean raccoon poop in a cage one day. So we all do it. So don't think that you can get done after your first year and just do all the cool medical stuff. Like, it doesn't work that way. Everybody chips in on all tasks on every shift. Yep. All right. So our wildlife ambassadors, I think that.
Well, we talk about how the wildlife hospital patients are all being raised with the ultimate goal of being released, and occasionally, in certain situations, the animal is not able to fully recover, and so euthanasia is the kindest choice that you can make. WildCare has a very small number. I think it's a total of 25 permits to have a few non-releasable educational animals on site for educational purposes. These animals we call our wildlife ambassadors, and they are all former wildlife hospital patients, whether at our center or from another center, that for one reason or another would not be able to survive in the wild. And so with our permits, and because those animals have shown that they would not be able to survive in the wild, they have shown that they're not in pain or suffering in any way, and they've shown that they can deal with the stresses of captivity, we have those animals on site, on view to the public at WildCare. And they're just incredible. It's such an amazing opportunity to come to WildCare and meet these animals and learn about their species from these educational guys. There you go.
So if the hospital volunteer position is not something that is going to work for you, working as an ambassador animal, or working as an ambassador volunteer with those animals is another volunteer opportunity. And these are some of the things that you get to do. You would learn how to take care of them, more cage cleaning and laundry and food.
There was a lot of that.
And enrichment. One of the very most important parts of this, though, is you can't just be good with animals, you also have to be good with humans, and especially the little mini kind. This is an education position. You have to be comfortable with public speaking and teaching to classrooms and groups of students. Again, with COVID right now, everything is much different than it used to be. We were taking our animals out to hundreds of classrooms a year. Now we're slowly working into that, but we are open. The courtyard is open a few days a week where people can come in and visit. And you could be in the courtyard with a hawk on the glove, speaking to visitors in the courtyard about all of these amazing animals.
Telling their stories. And that's the thing I love about the ambassador program is that because all of these animals came from the wildlife hospital, they all have a story about the reason they were injured or orphaned or whatever happened. And we calculate that 90 to 95% of the animals that we admit into the wildlife hospital come in because of negative interactions with humans. And again, WildCare helping people navigate the boundary where animals and humans come into contact with each other. These animals are great, have great stories about ways that you can help wildlife. Cut your 6-pack rings, get rid of your fishing line, drive safely at dusk, keep your cat inside, all of these different messages.
Don't keep wild animals as
Don't
pets.
keep wild animals as pets, exactly. All of these messages are so well illustrated by the stories of our wildlife ambassadors. So it really is a cool thing to be able to talk about.
And to become an ambassador volunteer, these volunteer positions open up just on an as-needed basis, and that information is on our website whenever we have orientations. And for that system, it's on our website. And
discoverwildcare.org is the website, and I also highly recommend that you sign up for our email list on our homepage because you'll get notifications about volunteer opportunities like a new wildlife ambassador need through the emails. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
have to be 18 or older, and they have either 9 to 1 or 1 to 5 shifts. Again, this is 7 days a week. We have these shifts running.
Feeding the pelicans, so cool.
And we talked about already food prep and enclosures. And then you are expected to attend the regular meetings they have about every other month. And there's a lot of online communications as well.
Yeah, so making sure that you're available for that. But it really is a great opportunity at WildCare for sure. Another really a large volunteer opportunity that we have is working with kids as a Terwilliger nature guide. So we talked about Mrs. Terwilliger and her amazing multisensory, other than taste, teaching methods that she had for so many years. And WildCare is so proud that our education programs, our nature education programs, carry on her traditions of really immersing kids into wildlife and nature in order to really cultivate that love and desire to protect. So our Terwilliger nature guides are right on the front lines of that. This is such a fun volunteer opportunity. You are using Mrs. T's styles to lead nature discovery walks for elementary school children. Primarily, I think we occasionally do a middle school, but mostly elementary school, in some of the most beautiful places in Marin County. The Muir Woods Park, of course, China Camp, and Ring Mountain. It's a bit of a commitment because we do need to have people go through the training, but the training, I have to say, is one of the most fun things you'll ever do in your entire life.
Naturalist training.
It is. So you're not just learning how to teach children and help them experience nature and wildlife. You're actually learning all of these things too. So from bird identification to scat identification to, plants to animals to all of the different aspects that you'll be teaching to the kids, you're going to learn all of those in the training. But we do ask you to lead hikes 3 times a month. And the scheduling difficulty with being a nature guide is that the hikes take place during the school year and during the day. So an awful lot of our Terwilliger nature guides are amazing retired teachers that are like, oh yeah, this is the thing I want to be doing. We do schedule the hikes in advance, so they are always something you can have on your schedule. They are in the mornings from 9:30 until 12:30. And in general, you will meet the classroom of kids at the hike site. You'll also be assigned to a hike site so that you know your particular area very, very well. And every time you go, you'll see something different and learn something new. And the opportunity to share knowledge with kids and just watch them learn to love nature and wildlife, and especially when you have an inner school group, a group of kids that maybe has never been to a park before, and when they start, they're scared to leave the asphalt of the parking area, and then by the end of the day they're just running around and completely in love with nature and being outside. It's just a really cool opportunity. So training sessions through February and March, and you'll also be doing some shadowing shifts with veteran nature guides actually doing hikes. So there's a lot of training, there's a lot of good hand-holding, and this is a really great opportunity to become, to do something really, interesting that makes a big difference for the next generation. Let me look at my notes really quickly. The training that you'll be getting is going to be provided by our unbelievable education director, Eileen Jones. That woman knows more about nature and wildlife than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. And I have to say, I frequently send her photos to have her ID things. So you would learn a lot from Eileen. Multifaceted training, teach you how to help children open their eyes to the wonderful world of wildlife. We don't need you to have a background in science or in education. We teach you everything you need to know, but obviously helpful, and certainly having an interest in science and something of an education background is always good. So we want you to complete the online application. So discoverwildcare.org/volunteer. And you will find the application there, and you can fill that out. If your application, same with the Wildlife Hospital, if your application shows that you're a good match for this volunteer opportunity, you'll be invited to an in-person orientation that we do in late January or early February every year. And the final selection of candidates will take place after the orientation. We do have a minimal fee for training materials as well, but we do have scholarships available for those materials. So really, we have a lot of volunteers that lead hikes and also volunteer in the Wildlife Hospital. You do not have to do one or the other. If you really, really want to have an incredible, immersive naturalist education and then share that with some really, really cool kids, the Terwilliger Nature Guide opportunity is a good one.
All right, other ways you can help WildCare. If we've scared you off with the dishes and the poop, and the not being
and the commitment,
not being able to pet babies, then other ways that are hugely helpful. Transport volunteer. This is really easy. All you have to do is be on an on-call email list, and basically, if we have an animal that needs to go to, say, International Bird Rescue, they specialize in pelagic seabirds that we do not have the proper pools for. So if we get in a pelagic bird, then we will send out an email and say, we have a scalp that needs a ride to IVR. Can somebody do that tomorrow between 10 and 2? And if you can, you respond to the email. If you can't, you do not have to respond. It's very low pressure, very easy, and it's immensely helpful. Typically, you're driving animals to other wildlife hospitals for specialized care. We trade patients a lot, depending on who has what caging available. And then also for releases. That's the most fun, of course, so that if we have an adult robin that needs to go back to be released to the area that she came from, we'll send out that email and ask, and if you can do it, then you can come pick her up and bring her to the release site. And we will train you, obviously, on proper techniques. You will never ever be handling any of the patients. They will be in a box, as Diana is holding this bird in a box. It's covered. And then when you get there, either hand the box to the people, or if you're doing a release, we'll teach you how to open the box safely. So you do not need any handling skills, and we'll teach you the proper techniques for everything with
but
that.
it's the most amazing thing in the world to watch one of those wildlife patients fly free. Just
and you have to be 18 or over. You have to have your own car and driver's license and insurance.
And we check all of those things.
Yes.
But transport is a great opportunity and not something that you have to go through a bunch of bells and whistles in order to do. You can just sign up with it. Support volunteers. We do have a need for administrative volunteer roles frequently. That tends to be on an as-needed basis. Again, I highly recommend that you sign up for our email list at discoverwildcare.org because we will announce those positions as they become available. In addition, if you've watched this orientation and you're thinking, yeah, dishes, poop, laundry, I don't know that I'm really up for this, but I'd love to help you do some data entry. Absolutely let us know that, because you're helping make a difference for the animals and for the environment just by doing something like that. It can be a really valuable contribution to WildCare. We frequently have mailings, we frequently have other office related things. So if you're thinking, I don't know about the poop, but I really would like to help, then being an administrative volunteer is definitely a great option.
I would like to also add facilities maintenance volunteers. So we're starting a facilities team. Right now, that's currently our only under 18 volunteer opportunity on site. And so basically cage repair, facilities maintenance, cleaning the yard, and then we need a lot of help with the Hungry Owl Project, building boxes, painting the boxes, sanding the boxes, putting the boxes together. So if that's something you can help with either on site or, oh my gosh, if you have a garage with a woodworking area.
The wood shop you haven't used for a few years.
Yes, that would be an amazing help to us. So again, just contact us if there's things like that you can help with.
Yeah, and actually probably the easiest way to let us know that you have those things available and are interested is to email volunteer@discoverwildcare.org. Again, that's volunteer@discoverwildcare.org, and that'll get you immediate attention.
Mm-hmm. And why volunteer? It is an insanely amazing, rare opportunity to learn about wildlife and be with them just close up. And it's just, you don't get this opportunity anywhere else in the world.
To be able to see the animals in such close proximity, learn about them, learn about how they receive care, what they need, what they eat. It's just amazing. So such a great opportunity.
And another, obviously, developing new skills. You don't have to be going to vet school or getting an RVT license, but it helps. This would help you if you were. You just learn so many things about the natural environment around us. The big one to me is creating lasting relationships and new friendships. As we've mentioned, many of our volunteers have been on shifts for 5, 10, 15, even 32 years. And those shifts, those people are friends, they hang out, they go to dinner after shifts, and it's a great community to be a part of.
And it's all a bunch of crazy animal people, right? We all have so much fun and all love and appreciate animals so much. And where else can you indulge your complete fascination with wildlife, right? Squirrel, bird, exactly.
People won't think you're crazy.
Yep.
And that is something that's very important for everybody. The other thing is helping to make up for a human impact on wildlife. As Allison mentioned earlier, over 90% of the patients that come to us because of negative human interactions. It doesn't mean it's intentional.
Right.
Just accidents happen with being hit by a car, birds flying into a window, caught by a cat. And this work that we do, you really feel like you're making a difference for every single individual.
Every single day
for everything that you do. So it makes the laundry and the food prep and stuff completely and totally worth it. And I always say, as a med staff member myself, I can sit in the med room with our veterinarian and we can do surgeries and procedures and suture all day. But if those animals don't have the proper food, if they don't have a clean cage, if they don't have a cage with branches and enrichment where their stress levels are lower, that all of the work that our volunteers do, it's for no reason. They will not survive without all of that work. What the volunteers do to make the hospital run is the single most important thing that happens to get these animals back out into the wild. And we can't do it without the volunteers. And it really...
we tried during COVID, let me tell you. That was really, really, really hard.
Yes, it makes up for everything that happens, and it just makes it so rewarding to be able to do.
It really does.
So our goal with all of our patients that come into us, if you can see at the very bottom of this picture down here is this, oops, I just made that come up. This little raccoon with the 6-pack. Okay.
Yeah, down here with the 6-pack reins playing in the garbage because that's what happens.
Yep.
That guy came in
This was a raccoon that came in. You can see the X across his neck and his chest. So he was wrapped in a 6-pack. So apparently as a baby exploring, going through trash, got it around him, and just as he grew, it grew into him. And then he went through many, many surgeries and debridement surgeries until he was completely unrecognizable, fat and happy before release.
And then ultimately getting them to that point.
So the release is the absolute best part, and this video of our raccoon release is hilarious. As we've mentioned, they don't know we're trying to help them. We do not get a thank you at all. If we know we did our job right, if we open that door and all we see is little rear ends, either flying away or running away, and it's just the best part of what we do. So you're being a volunteer, you will get to go on releases. If you're a transport volunteer, you get to do some as well. It's just the culmination of all of the work and blood, sweat, and tears that we give is seeing these guys back out in the wild.
Right. I love that video. That little video of those little butts walking. I actually took that video.
Oh, really?
When I first started at WildCare, it was in like 2005 or something. Yeah, I just love that. I love that. It's such an amazing, amazing shot, and just that experience of letting them go and watching them return to their wild lives.
There's other ways you can support.
Volunteering, of course, is one of the biggest ones, but we have many other ways that you can also help this incredible organization and the animals in our care. The idea of leaving WildCare in your will. We hope everyone stays healthy for years and years and years, but it's a great idea to put an organization like WildCare in your will. And that means that even after you're not able to support us, that we would still get support. And planned giving is really a great way to support the organizations that you care about the most. So we have a tool at freewill.com/wildcare that actually helps you write your will, which is a really challenging thing to do, but this makes it very, very easy. So if you're interested in checking that out at FreeWill. Keeping track of your volunteer hours is another way that you can help us, and we'll of course encourage you to, we'll make that possible for you and encourage you strongly to do that as you continue to volunteer. Those volunteer hours are incredibly valuable, both because you're giving us your time, and also for grants and other ways that we demonstrate the commitment of the community to the organization. Making gifts, donations, of course, WildCare is over 80% supported by individual donations. We do have some for-fee programs. We do have some, we apply for grants and do various other fundraising things, but the vast majority of WildCare's, I think we're at $2.8 million annual budget for operating, comes in because of individual donations. That's that $35 donation, that $500 donation.
That's really important for people to understand that their taxes do not pay for WildCare.
Right?
That people think that we're supposed to be here and that their taxes pay for it. And no, we're our own nonprofit, and we receive very, very little funding from local agencies, and we receive none from the government.
Yep, it is, unless we apply for grants, and that of course is a process. So we are an independent nonprofit, and we are almost entirely supported by your generosity. So it makes a huge difference. So monthly giving, matching gifts through your employer if you make a gift to WildCare, and actually your volunteer hours as well can often be matched by your employer. I know Microsoft and a number of other big companies do match volunteer hours with financial donations to the organization. So let's look into that for sure. Donating a vehicle, making gifts of stock, even in-kind donations, whether it's persimmons for our baby raccoons, or your time doing support tasks. There's lots of different ways that you can give to the organization, and every single one of them makes a big difference. You're probably aware of Amazon Smile, smile.amazon.com. If you do shop on Amazon a lot, go to smile.amazon.com, make WildCare your particular charity, and then every time you shop, it doesn't cost you anything additional, but we do get a small percentage of your shopping as a donation, and we get several $1,000s a year out of Amazon Smile. So we love that. So the bit.ly link, bit.ly/WC Smile will get you to the place where you mark us as your particular Amazon Smile charity. So that's always a great thing to do. If you have connections of people that might have a family foundation, or if you work for an organization that does do granting for nonprofits, especially within the environmental sphere, one of the great things about WildCare is that we approach the issues of environmental problems from so many different directions. And so we are able to apply for education grants because we do so much education advocacy grants, animal care grants. There's lots of different things. So if you have anyone in your life that has any connection with a granting organization that you think might want to support WildCare, let us know. We'd be super grateful for that information. And corporate matching, I talked about that already, the ability to have your employer match either both your volunteer hours and also individual donations that you make to WildCare. So all great ways that you can help us keep this amazing organization running. You can also help by spreading the word about WildCare. I guarantee you, once you start as a volunteer, you will do nothing but talk about all of the amazing things that you get to do in the wildlife hospital. But spreading the word is a great way to help promote our organization and also to make sure that animals that need help get help. Things like sharing on social media, getting our newsletters out. We have a print newsletter that we do twice a year. Reviewing us on Yelp. We have great Yelp reviews, and we always love those. So just making people in your circle aware of the organization. And I always say that you never find an injured animal until the day after someone's told you about WildCare. So we love that. Amazon Smile, becoming a member of WildCare, making a donation and becoming a member. We appreciate your support so very, very much. Helping the volunteer department really appreciate you, our amazing volunteers, the people that make it possible for us to do the work that we do every year. So we ask, have people volunteer to help write thank you notes to our volunteers, creating gift bags, finding organizations that want to donate things to our volunteers.
I can't tell you how amazing it is when people come, excuse me, to the front desk and to intake, and they bring a bunch of produce for the animals, and then also a batch of cookies for the volunteers that are working that day. And it's just, everyone's like, oh, they thought of the volunteers and the staff too. That's amazing. It's so appreciated. Everybody loves it, and they're gone in a second.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely. And of course, how you can help wildlife, live well with wildlife yourself, and follow the things that WildCare says to keep your environment and habitat as safe as possible for wild animals. Oh, wait a minute.
No,
we lost
the last slide.
That's interesting. We're going to go back there.
Yeah, I think it might have been hidden from previous.
Which is weird because the other volunteer opportunities weren't hidden.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody. Some technical difficulties here. So, yeah, okay. So that was other ways to help. Okay.
I was just hidden. It's got a little line through it.
Okay. There we go.
So quiet, pause for a second. Okay. All right. So you've listened to our spiel. Thank you for making it all the way through. We hope we haven't scared you off and that you still are really excited about joining us in the hospital team, because it's the most amazing opportunity I think that you will ever have, and we really hope you will join us. So if you've decided that this is for you and you want to join our hospital team, you're going to go to the website that's listed here.
That's our regular WildCare website. It's discoverwildcare.org, and then it's the /, which is the one on the question mark button on your keyboard. So discoverwildcare.org /vol app, and that's going to get you to the application. Now, the thing about the application is that we need you to have watched this entire video before you fill out that application. We want you to know what you're getting into. So we have a secret code, a secret password. That password is Turkey Vulture.
Turkey Vulture.
There's Vladimir, our ambassador Turkey Vulture from WildCare. You might be familiar with him. When you get to that question on the application, what is the application password? The answer is Turkey Vulture. We don't care about capitalization. Turkey Vulture.
And please don't share that if you have other people applying that you know have them watch the orientation. It's really important that people understand the commitment that we're asking for. So have them watch too.
After you fill out your application,
we are going to obviously review applications. As we mentioned, it's a pretty competitive process because we have limited slots. So it doesn't guarantee that everybody will get in, of course, this round. But we're going to review applications, determine everybody's eligibility, and then if you fit and you meet the requirements, then we'll reach out and schedule a 15-minute video interview with you. And again, just the next step to make sure that it's a good fit on both sides. And then it's also your opportunity to ask questions. So if you had a bunch of questions from this orientation and you can't answer because it's not live, that would be your chance to ask staff any questions that you have and make sure it's a good fit. From that process, that step in the process, then if it is a good fit on both sides and you're accepted to the program, then you would work with staff to schedule your in-person shadowing shift in your training and onboarding process. Let's see, and then from there, after your training, then you would be doing you would get the links for your online training classes and then figure out what shift you would be on and stuff. We want you to come in and do the shadowing shift before you make a decision on which shift you're going to work so that you get the tour, you get to see the bird room, you get to see the clinic, and it'll just answer a lot of your questions and help you decide what's going to be the best fit for you before you make a commitment.
if you decide that another of the opportunities that we have for volunteers at WildCare interests you more, or in addition, you can take a look at the other applications, including our nature guide application. We got a bit.ly link for the nature guide application that's also at discoverwildcare.org/volunteer, and you'll have that application there as well. As I said earlier, signing up on our WildCare website homepage to sign up for our e-newsletter, and also following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, will help you stay updated on all of the amazing stuff that we have going on at WildCare. So getting our emails is awesome. We work really hard to make those fun and interesting. And so recommend that for sure. And then following us on social media as well.
I think a fun thing about the emails too is once you are a hospital volunteer, you get to see the patients that you've been working with, and then you can see their progress, and then you can send them to your friends and family. Like, this is a squirrel I told you about. This is the one I got to feed last week. So those are really fun.
Yeah, that's a real benefit for sure. So hopefully we've been able to answer most of the questions that you had about volunteering in the Wildlife Hospital during this presentation. But of course, you can always email us at volunteer@discoverwildcare.org and get your questions answered as well. So that works. That works as well.
And it'll take us a little time to go through all the applications and go through everybody and vet everybody. So please be patient. This is a process that'll probably take a couple of weeks before you hear from us. But if you don't hear from us, say in about 2 weeks from when you submit your application, email volunteer@discoverwildcare.org and just check in, make sure we got it, and we can give you an update on an estimated timeline that you would hear from us. And I think that's all that we have.
I think so.
Thank you so much. We hope you will enjoy it and join us and get us ready for baby season. Work with all these wild animals that need your help.
Thanks very much, everybody.